Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Welcome, everyone. It's the latest edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. As is the case every Friday, we will be on YouTube from 11 to 12:30, and then the final half hour of the show on WKYC Channel 3 from 12:30 to 1. Along with G. Bush and Earl the Pearl, I'm Adam the Bull. We got a lot to get to, guys. We got Mike and Anthony and Steve behind the glass. Tim Kurkjian, longtime baseball insider, is going to join us in less than 10 minutes.
Timmy.
Yeah, we'll talk. His son used to work. Do you know his son? Did you know his son, Jeff? He worked over at the radio station as a DJ there for a while.
No. They had back. How long ago was this?
I don't know. Maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, pre-COVID.
It's pre-COVID?
Yeah, pre-COVID.
I wasn't G. Bush back then.
Yeah, you were Garrett.
Yeah, I was Garrett.
Yeah,
they probably walked past me.
So we'll talk. I also saw Tim Kurkjian randomly at a restaurant when I was down in Florida over the winter. Restaurant was actually really bad, but anyway, he was there, and I don't know what he was up to, but there's really no great story there. I just happened to randomly see him.
That might be the worst story you've ever
There was
told.
no story. I'm like, there's nothing really interesting about this. Just that I happened to see him, and I didn't. I let him be. I didn't even go up to him or anything.
Did you say what's up? No.
No.
Yeah, by
who
the
knows
way,
what he was up to.
By the way, yeah, that's a party foul now. Like, that's the messed up part about it. If I see somebody out, who did I see that was really? I saw somebody that was extra famous.
In Cleveland?
Halle Berry.
Nah, it wasn't no, like, first of all, as a man, you can never go up to a famous woman. That's out of here.
Why?
Because I'm 6'5" and black. What are you talking about? I'm walking up on those. Can you imagine me rolling up on Scarlett Johansson? I'm your biggest fan, boy. You know.
Yeah, but first of all, somebody like Scarlett Johansson's going to have bodyguards around her. She ain't walking around by herself.
Listen, any of them, I'm cool on that. They're like, G. Bush was arrested in the airport for stalking. Like, no, like, come on, bro. You know people already don't think I'm that big. Like, come on. They're listen, this is unacceptable. You ain't running for no woman.
I see Taraji. I'm going to get a hug.
Who?
Taraji P. Henson.
I have no idea who that is.
You have to ask for it first, though.
I'm going to ask.
You got to ask.
But I'm not just not going to approach her.
Like, is she, you know what? That's
if you saw Halle Berry, you wouldn't try to go say hello?
I would.
No.
I would.
What?
No.
That would be an opportunity of a lifetime.
Do not be that guy. Don't roll up to no beautiful woman like that done movies before so she can be like, listen, that's creepy, bro. You can't walk up and...
Isn't there a way you can walk up to her and it not be creepy? It's not possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
Earl, you think it's not? It is possible?
Because I'm going to walk up to her and not be creepy.
Hey, listen, you got to, like, first and foremost, you gotta have I don't think there's an honest way. Like,
no,
you could be like, hey, I just love your work. Okay,
yeah,
thank you. Get away from me. Hey, listen, I love you and I love your Catwoman and Batman.
No, you can't say. You can't start with the Catwoman. That's creepy.
You can't do that.
Creepy.
She's like, she's already known.
You got to bring up a role that was like maybe then John Wick, where she's like beating people up and stuff like that.
Man,
Perfect Stranger. Her and Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the one where she got beat up by her ex-husband? Or am I thinking of something else?
No, you're thinking about Enough with Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah, you can't, like, no.
She was in a movie recently where she was like a boxer.
Okay, I thought of one.
Yeah, all right.
If you have a daughter.
Yeah, well, okay.
Or your wife.
That's different, yeah.
And your wife has to be a little hysterical. Oh my God, it's her.
Right, and if you and your wife are together, then you could go up to her.
And I'm saying, hey, my wife really, really loves your work.
Right.
And then I could always pull the card. She doesn't speak English. So
that's true.
She doesn't speak English, and I just
your wife completely changes the dynamic.
Yeah, and then
everything's
everything. But if you come in single male, over the 6 foot, coming up in there trying to get you some love real quick.
But Halle Berry's from Cleveland, so I feel like maybe because of that.
No. There's a reason.
There's a Cleveland pass.
There's a reason. She knows because she's from Cleveland. She knows Cleveland people is too friendly.
Maybe so.
Me and you are not. We didn't go to high school together. And stop talking about David Justice. That was weeks ago. You see what I'm saying? Like no.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that was so long ago.
Because we're from Cleveland. I'm from Cleveland.
Yeah.
I know about that.
Didn't CC Sabathia date Serena Williams at one point in time?
Yeah, we should have asked him
Is
that.
that true?
Yeah,
we got Tim?
We do have Tim,
All right.
so we're going to welcome in our first guest of the day after a quick reminder that on Monday we
Yeah.
will be live from the Quail Hollow Golf Course for the Austin
Very
Card
fancy.
Tournament, which means we are going from 10 a.m. to noon, not the typical 11 a.m. to 1, so make sure you guys set your clocks accordingly. We're doing that so we can get some interviews with the celebrities participating in the golf tournament before they tee off at 11, so we're going to get them during the practice round and their warm-up swings beforehand. So 10 to 12 on Monday. Make sure you tune in. And we welcome Tim Kurkjian after a quick word from FanDuel, because FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. You guys know I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports just don't sports like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going anytime I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets when I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And with that, we welcome in ESPN baseball expert analyst Tim Kurkjian to the show. Tim, how you doing today?
Well, fellas, how you doing?
Doing great, Tim. We appreciate you taking the time.
You have to ask him the question that we just had.
What?
You definitely got to ask him.
Well, let me ease him into it here.
Okay.
First of all, Tim, I worked with your son Jeff at the radio station. I worked at the sports station for many years, and he was, of course, a DJ here in Cleveland. So I know you say he's in Vegas. Is he still in Vegas, or has he moved on to something else?
Yeah, he is in Philadelphia now.
Oh.
He's at XTU. He does the morning show there with
Nice.
Andy Summers, and he's doing great. And he and I have our own baseball father-son podcast. Runs every Tuesday. So yeah, it's like a dream come true doing a podcast with your own son.
Did you, my son, who's young, he's 11. He's shown some interest, not in sports, but he's interested in entertaining and comedy and stuff like that. And I always wonder like how much I should push it when he brings it to me. Did your son, was that something that he brought to you and then you just embraced it, that he wanted to be in entertainment as well?
Of course. He was the star of all the school plays in high school, as opposed to playing baseball, basketball like Dad, and his sister was a great player. He said, I want to be on stage, and he was the star of all the shows. And he just had a presence to him even when he was 5 years old. He could entertain people with singing and dancing and everything else. So he's always wanted to do that. When I was a kid, all I ever did was watch baseball games. He was watching, whose line is it anyway? He was watching, and that's how he became. And I must tell you, it has really helped him. That skill that you have out in front of people, he will have that skill for the rest of his life. Whereas a lot of good high school ball players and baseball players that can't do much anymore with that skill.
It's a fair point. Tim, on a non-family, non-sports related question, we were having a debate before, and we want your take on this because obviously you're famous. You're out. I was just saying earlier that I actually saw you randomly. I didn't want to bother you, but I was in Florida over the winter, and I saw you in a restaurant. I noticed you there. I didn't come up, obviously, because I didn't want to bother you. But so you're a celebrity. People see you. They know who you are. We were talking before about if you see a famous woman, in this case we were talking about Halle Berry because she's from Cleveland. My man G. Bush here says, well, I can't just walk up and talk to her. That's not good. But if his wife is there, then it's okay to talk to her. Do you think it's not okay, just in a harmless way, to talk to a famous female celebrity if that opportunity arises? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you could do it, but I'm not going to do that. I would be petrified around Halle Berry. She makes me look like a pile of inner tubes. So I don't think we're in the same. One day at ESPN, this was horrible. This is about 15 years ago. Jessica Alba was in line in front of me in the cafeteria. And she turned around and said hello, and I'm so embarrassed. I had no idea who she was. I told my then son, Jeffrey, age 15, I stood behind Jessica Alba in line. I didn't know who she was. And he said, Dad, what is wrong with you? Well, obviously, there's a lot wrong with me. No, I would not go up to Halle Berry. I would be too scared.
He melted. He melted in the lunch line. He melted. He's like, I can't do it. I have nothing.
Tim, let's get to the Guardians here. We do want to talk about the draft. We're talking more about, baseball draft is usually not a big deal. Obviously, it's gotten bigger in the last few years. We will get to that in a minute, but it's like a double focus right now. The Guardians have been way better than we expected at the start of the season. They're struggling a little bit right now, but they still have the best record in the American League. And fans are anxious because we're used to the starting pitching being good, and there being question marks with the rest of the team. Right now, the lineup's been good. The defense is excellent. The bullpen's been great. But the starting rotation, Tim, is a mess. This team needs to get starting pitching, and the fans are worried that the Guardians will not make an aggressive trade to get at least one pitcher. How do you feel 18 days or so before the deadline? Do you think they will be aggressive and get some starting pitching?
I do. I don't know if they're going to get it because every other team out there, including the Yankees and the Dodgers, are going to be looking for starting pitching. And with only 5, 6, maybe 7 teams at the most that are going to be sellers because everyone's in the playoff race, I just don't know how the Guardians are going to outbid, say, the Dodgers or the Yankees for Crochet or whoever you want to talk about who might be available. But yes, I agree. Guardians got something really good going on. I had no idea they were going to be this good. I had no idea their offense would score this many runs. But they need another starting pitcher because you get people interested like this. You can't tease them at 57 and 35 and then not do anything at the trade deadline. I think they will try to do it. But again, there are a lot of other teams trying to do the exact same thing, and those teams have more money and more resources.
Well, Tim, you say more money and more resources. I always ask Bull, I said, okay, if you want an arm, you got to give something to get something. Do you believe that the Guardians have, enough prospects to, say, go out and bid for some of these people? Do they have enough to make their deal a little sweeter than some of the other teams who may have more money?
Yeah, they have a pretty good farm system, but it's not the Dodger farm system, and it sure isn't the Orioles farm system. And the Orioles need a starting pitcher maybe more than anyone if they're going to get to October, which they are, and then do something in October. So when you stack up the Indians' prospects against some of these bigger teams with better farm systems, I don't like the Guardians' chances of going up against Baltimore or the Dodgers to get somebody. And when you're still a developmental team like the Guardians are, you got to be careful with those draft picks because you're not in the same position that the Dodgers can be where they can trade people away and then still have all the money they need to go get what they want.
Tim, you said that you had no idea that the Guardians would be this good and that they would score this many runs. So clearly, I think to a degree, it's safe to say they've overachieved so far this season. How would you assess rookie manager Stephen Vogt? I think he's a strong personality, strong leader of men. But how do you see him?
I think he's great. I wrote a 4,000-word story for ESPN.com in spring training about Stephen Vogt. And I was writing more about what a funny, playful baseball lifer that he is. But in researching the story, the season hadn't even begun yet. We were 2 weeks into spring training. And Max Muncy of the Dodgers told me, Stephen Vogt's the best teammate I ever had, and I fully believe that someday he will be a Hall of Fame manager. This is before he ever managed a game. And I probably talked to 20 people about Stephen Vogt, and not one person said anything different than, we all knew he was going to be a manager. We all knew he was going to be great at this because of his personality, his communication skills, his people skills. Fellas, this is why Tito Francona was so good. He could look you in the eye and tell you the truth. And even if it hurt, he could make it palatable, and that's what Stephen Vogt can do. He's the manager of the year in the American League this year because he has done a sensational job, having only coached in the major leagues for 1 year and never managed.
Yeah, it is remarkable. Tim, going back to the pitching for a minute, as you said, there's not a lot of teams necessarily selling right now. We'll see what happens. I thought the Cubs were about to become sellers. Now they've won 6 of 7. Maybe Toronto's a seller now. They have some interesting pitchers. Maybe Tampa Bay. Even if they can't get the top of the market in terms of pitchers, I think it's important, if nothing else, to try to grab some rental innings eaters just to be able to make it through the regular season and not burn out the bullpen, if nothing else, because then you could overuse the bullpen in the playoffs, which is their strength. So at the very least, I hope they do that. Is that reasonable?
Yes, that's reasonable. Like someone like Eric Fetty of the White Sox is not a great pitcher, but he's had a very good year, and he's a veteran, and he could eat up some innings. So that's what maybe they should be focusing on. Chris Bassett of the Blue Jays is really good. I don't know if they're going to sell. They still think they have a chance to make the playoffs. And, of course, that's the problem right now. Everyone, almost every team is in the same boat right now. And when the Diamondbacks proved last year you can sneak in with 84 wins, get hot in October, and get to the World Series, everyone is still looking at that. And that's why this trade deadline is going to be so, so tricky.
Do you think they should push back the trade deadline? I was talking today. I thought they should push it back to maybe August 15th. We know they used to have the 2 trade deadlines. They got rid of it. Do you think they'll consider moving it back a little bit?
They might, because now with the new rules, once you do the trade deadline, you can't make any moves from August the 1st till, the end of the season. So sure, maybe that makes more sense. But the way I have to look at it is I want the player that I acquire for as long as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. You are renting him for 2 months. If you push it back to August the 15th, now you're down to 6 weeks of a guy. You're going to give up a top prospect for a 6-week rental? That makes it even riskier.
Hey, Tim, you look at Jose Ramirez making another start at third base for the American League All-Star team. He's clearly going to be in the MVP race again this year. I asked this question on social media a couple of days ago. Kind of was a silly question, but in your opinion, when you look at the franchise history of the Cleveland Guardians, how far off is Jose Ramirez from being on that Mount Rushmore?
Mount Rushmore of the Indians. Well, unfortunately, I'm 67 years old, so we have to go way back with Bob Feller's got to be number 1. Earl Averill's in there from way back. So Mount Rushmore is probably a little too early for Jose Ramirez, especially with all those great Indians that came through with Manny and Tomey and Alomar and all that. But point is, this guy's staying there for a long time, and let's give him another 5 years, and maybe he'll be on that list. I am I am dazzled every day by how good that guy is. And every year he's the same player. And sometimes he doesn't even have any help in the lineup. This year is different, and he still produces. So I don't think he's a Mount Rushmore guy yet, but someday he might be.
Tim, if you look at the roster is very young. You look at Quan. He's another young guy. Good glove. He was flirting with 400 for a while. You look at some of the other people. He just mentioned Jose Ramirez. In 5 years, if you look at this roster, which person on this roster, whether they're with the Guardians or somebody else, will be the best player?
Well, that's a great question. I am dazzled also by Stephen Kwan, because I'll put him down because I think the game that he plays is going to last. Fellas, he's got 22 walks and 23 strikeouts this season. You know how many guys strike out 23 times in a month? Like 100 guys strike out 23 or more times in a month. And he's got that for the season. His bat-to-ball skills are like Luis Arise-like, and so few other guys in the big leagues play this way. So when you find a guy whose values getting a hit, not necessarily hitting a home run, and puts the ball in play and puts his bat on the ball and doesn't strike out, that guy has lasting power. So Stephen Kwan will be the best player on this team in 5 years.
Tim, I recently compared Emmanuel Clase. I said he reminds me a little of Lee Smith. He would come in and Lee Smith would come in, big dude. He was intimidating. And I feel like Emmanuel Clase. Are you buying that comparison at all?
Well, he's not as big as Lee Smith. Lee Smith is one of the biggest men I've ever seen in my life. And Lee Smith, by the way, used to take a nap in the first 4 innings of the game, and then he would walk out to the bullpen to get ready for what was going to be another closing situation, Hall of Fame closer. But Clase has been unbelievable. I mean, his ERA is 0.83. He's arguably been the best relief pitcher in the major leagues this year, and we can go back several years, and he's going to be in that conversation. And that's, again, why the Guardians are so dangerous, is they play the game differently than most other teams. Their bullpen is loaded, and they have a guy who can go 1, 2, 3 in the ninth.
Yep.
Tim, I'm not like my man Bull here. I'm more so of a casual baseball fan. But this season, I found myself watching more games that involve teams that doesn't include the Cleveland Guardians. You've been around this game for a long time. In your opinion, what has MLB done to draw more interest to the casual fan?
Well, the pitch clock really helped. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We cut a half an hour off the games last year, and that was a half an hour of dead time. And I think it worked. I wasn't sure it's going to work, but I'm glad it worked. A lot of these other rule changes I can live without. But to me, the reason people are starting to get interested again is the talent level in the major leagues is just ridiculously high. Just look at the All-Star team this year, 32 first-time All-Stars this year. 17 of them are pitchers. So when you look at Paul Skeens and Ellie De La Cruz and Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt Jr. and Mason Miller, all first-time All-Stars, those guys are going to carry the All-Star team for the next 10 years. That's, to me, is why baseball is starting to make a resurgence. Ever since Harper and Trout came in the game 10, 12 years ago, that's when the game started this influx of amazingly young, athletic, big, strong, fast kids who get here earlier than ever. And when they get here, they are breathtaking to watch.
And a perfect follow-up to that, of course, last thing, Tim, is the draft, right? Bazana and Condon seem to be the top 2 guys on the board. We'll see. There's been talk about J.J. Weatherholt. But I think it's going to come down to Bazana and Condon. They're both players that could be in the big leagues, maybe even by September, certainly by next year, putting up huge numbers, obviously, in college. What are you hearing? What do you think the Guardians are going to do with this first pick in the draft?
Okay, I think that's going to be one of the two, and you're asking me to guess. So I'm going to guess it's going to be Charlie Condon. He's an outfielder. He can play third base. He's from, obviously, just like Bazana, he's from a huge program. He's got great power, and everyone's looking for power these days, of course. And if you hit the ball out of the ballpark, you got a chance. And so that's where I think the Guardians will go. But this draft, I'm told, and I'm by no means a draft expert, trust me, it's different than a lot. I mean, it's really unclear after the first couple guys who it is. But I think it'll be Charlie Condon to the Guardians.
Do you think there's any chance he's in the big leagues before the end of this season?
I would guess no, but I didn't expect Paul Skeens. I knew Paul Skeens would be in the big leagues this early. I didn't know he would be this good. And there's the lesson, fellas. These guys are rushed to the big leagues faster than ever to make up. So everyone sees this is our big investment. Let's go. Let's bring them in. Yeah. And so I would say no to this year, but all bets are off with the drafts these days.
Tim, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much for spending it with us. All the best to you and to Jeff, your son. I'm glad he's doing well, and we'll talk to you again. Thanks.
And Tim, plug the podcast.
Okay,
Where can
fellas.
people hear
Yes.
you and your son's podcast?
Yes.
It's is this a great game or what? You can find it. And I'm so bad at this, I don't even understand how it works. It's on all this Spotify's and all that stuff. That's what my son does. He takes
Spotify.
care of all that. I just provide the content.
There you go. Apple Pods. I'm sure it's on Apple Pods and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
We appreciate it,
On
Tim.
everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, fellas.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. That was the great Tim Kurkjian. Always an entertaining interview. And we'll continue the Guardians conversation after a quick word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home some big-time wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. And Bull, yesterday the Guardians game did not go according to plan. They lost 10-1. Austin Hedges was their best pitcher in the game. So I want to ask you three out here.
And Austin Hedges is a better pitcher than a hitter. Let's admit that right now.
We'll end the discussion on that
With
little
a 70
question.
mile an hour fastball.
But with teams unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely to make a ton of moves prior to the day or two ahead of the trade deadline, for the next 2.5 weeks, what can the Guardians do to try and salvage their rotation? Because it doesn't appear Spencer Howard's the answer.
Man, as you kind of like transition into that comment,
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about what Tim said. He said, I'm a little alarmed. The Guardians need arms, but everybody's in the race, and those teams have better resources. So if right now we're in first place, but we still need an arm. We're sliding a little bit. The Twins is getting better. The Twins it cut the lead to 4.5. If it's down between the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Orioles, and the Guardians don't have the same ammunition in the farm system, and they may not be willing to give up the said prospects to get a top-notch arm.
I mean, listen, that happens every year. There's always teams that have better farm system than others. The Yankees' farm system is not very good. The Dodgers and the Orioles do have a better farm system than the Guardians. We don't know what they're willing to give up either.
I would assume that they'd be willing to give up more than the Guardians because the Guardians are a young team still. They need those prospects to kind of keep churning the system.
Maybe so, but that's only an excuse for losing out on maybe the best pitcher on the market. Mm-hmm. And if they can't get the best pitcher because the Orioles offer a better deal, well, I'm not going to kill the front office for that. There's no excuse not to get pitchers. None. It doesn't have to be the best pitcher. Yes, you want to get a great pitcher, but at the very least, and Tim agreed, he said, hey, there's guys. He mentioned Chris Bassett of Toronto. He mentioned, who did he mention before that? I can't remember. He mentioned another guy who did he mention before Bassett? Do you remember?
Fetty.
Yeah. Like, if the Guardians got Fetty and Bassett, that's a huge upgrade. Those guys, like, Chris Bassett's a really good pitcher. He's not going to cost a ton in terms of prospects. The Yankees and Dodgers, yes, these other teams need pitchers too. But they're not going to get every pitcher. Right now, there's a handful of pitchers that are available. By the time we get closer to the deadline, there'll be more teams that will be sellers. There'll be teams that will decide, hey, we're out of it. That opens the gate. The Yankees are going to trade for one pitcher maybe. They're not trading for multiple pitchers. The Dodgers, I don't know. The Dodgers got their whole pitching staff on the injured list. So they might. The Orioles will trade for a pitcher, certainly. There's still plenty of pitchers out there to get. This is not an excuse. The Guardians have to do something. Now, the idea that there's going to be no trades until the day or two before is not true. The closer you get to the deadline, the more action that happens. We see this every year. We see it in football to a lesser degree. You see it in basketball at the trade deadline. There's more trades the day before the deadline than there is a week before the deadline. There'll be some things. Now, right now, you're not going to see anything because the teams are focused on the draft. That's a dynamic in baseball that you don't have in any other sport. The draft is Sunday, first round. It ends on Tuesday. So right now, my guess is most teams are putting their trade talk on hold for 4 or 5 days to deal solely with the draft for the next few days. But after that, like once the draft is over on Tuesday and the All-Star game's over on Tuesday, starting Wednesday, things are going to ramp up in terms of the trade deadline.
See, you know, it's crazy because I never considered that the Orioles were going to be making a move.
I should. If I'm an Orioles fan, I'm going to be pissed if they don't.
Because the Orioles, to me, I look at the Orioles as the direct competition to the Guardians.
They are.
You're going to have to either beat the Orioles or the Yankees, right?
Probably.
And if they already started with a better pitching rotation than you have.
Not much better.
Not much better.
Yeah.
But if they got the ability to go out and get a top name that puts them head and shoulders above the rest, and we can only go out and do innings eaters, I'm gonna have to give those two the edge in the playoffs.
Go ahead, Earl.
Didn't they being the Baltimore Orioles, didn't they get smoked by the Oakland A's like a couple games ago? Didn't it? Who was the team
Cubs
they played?
just swept them.
They've been shut out 2 games in a row.
It was like
now.
they gave up like 19 runs or something like that.
Yeah.
And so like they clearly need pitching as well. I think that they're going to be in direct competition as well. I'm with you. Even if you don't get the top echelon guy that's up there or on the trade market, you better come away with a guy that's in that top 6 or 7. And if you can get 2 guys that's up there like that, then you need to go do it. This team is damn good, and there's no excuse to utilize some of the resources that you do have to address the situation that we have. You've seen the upcoming schedule. You got San Diego, you got a series against San Diego, and you got a series against Philadelphia. Both those teams can hit, and hit damn good.
Yeah.
And so to see how we're going to navigate through these next couple weeks is going to be pretty interesting. We tried what we tried yesterday with Howard. That didn't work. Our bullpen is damn good, but you don't want to wear them out because you're going to need them as we get later on in the season. Stephen Vogt is going to have an interesting challenge on his hand on how he pieced together, this rotation going forward. And we better hope that Bobby get his stuff together and Gavin Williams can build off that second start he had.
Yeah, and to answer Mike's question specifically, which you alluded to there, Earl, in terms of what you're going to do between now and when they potentially get some help, you're going to do kind of what you've been doing. They'll probably bring Logan Allen back after the All-Star break. I would think they'll call him back up, and he'll make 1 or 2 starts. Obviously, he's been inconsistent. There's no easy answer within the organization. Now, let me just address this Spencer Howard thing, because I've seen a lot of fans make a big deal about this. First of all, when he left, the game was only 4-1. They've come back from 3-run games many times. The bullpen, the guys they used out of the bullpen yesterday did not pitch well. They didn't use their key guys, obviously, because they were down 4-1. So it wasn't just because of him. I mean, they were only down 3 runs when he left the game. Number 2, I saw so many people on Twitter, alleged fans, saying, "Oh, the Guardians, they can't be serious pitching this guy. What are they doing?" First of all, it's not ideal. I get it. And the Guardians have put themselves in this position by not having good depth in the rotation, and injuries and ineffectiveness has led to this. But guys like this who bounce around as journeymen, this guy at one point was a big prospect. This guy, every team has a couple of starts a year where they have to throw a guy who you're holding your breath, hoping he doesn't screw it up. I thought it would be ugly yesterday. I said it on the show. It turned out to be ugly. But let's not make it seem as if the Guardians are the only team that do this. Every team, including big market teams, do this. They have a bullpen game. It happens sometimes. Now, the reason it's more noticeable with the Guardians is because overall their starting pitching's been bad. Even Bybee's last 2 starts were not great, although I thought he did a good job bouncing back and getting through 7 the other day. When he didn't have his best stuff, I thought he showed a little toughness there. And Ben Lively's coming off a bad start, so you're nervous about him. But right now, the hope is that Bybee, Williams, and Lively can pitch well for the next few weeks. You need them to pitch well the rest of the season. And they're going to need some reinforcements. I don't think it's that big a deal that he made this 1 start. They didn't necessarily lose the game because of that only. They didn't hit. The Tigers did. But they're going to need reinforcements. And I think killing the organization right now is unfair. If they... Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. If they don't add starting pitching, I will lead the way for crushing this team. But I'm not going to do that, when we still got a couple of weeks before the deadline.
I don't look at, just from playing, I don't look at baseball games game to game. It's like Yeah, like
Yeah, you can't look at it like football.
No, it's like, okay, I look at it in like groups of like, okay, you have a series against this team, and this team. What did you win 2 out of 3 series, or what's the overall arching theme? Like, I don't even get alarmed when somebody has a bad outing. Like, they can have a bad outing and then they can come back and have 2 good outings.
Right.
Logan Allen can, he's only a couple of good outings away from people saying, Nuggets being like, how good do you feel about Logan Allen?
Right, exactly.
You're like,
That's
well,
true.
all right, yeah, he did good. He's back at it.
Yeah.
I don't think they can do anything. They're just going to keep throwing the guys they got out there and hope they pitch better.
I think on the flip side to what Bull said about the fans, feeling like the sky is falling right now, I think it's kind of interesting to see people care, right? Because when the season started, especially all the casual guys, we had little to no expectations that the Guardians will be good.
Right.
And so to see the fans really invested and critiquing this team and care so much in July, I'm with you. Right, we got a long way to go. The sky is not falling. I think eventually, when it's all said and done and the dust settle, everything will be okay.
Yeah.
But I do find it very interesting to see the city involved, the fans involved, and really interested, hanging on every move, every win, every loss. Yeah. And I think that, the Howard thing where people went crazy on social media, I think it's coupled with the fact that the Guardians been playing about 500 baseball over the last 10, 11 games.
Yeah, well,
and so people just pissed.
No, I get it. And yes, with added interest comes, in the WNBA right now, there's a lot of diehard people that have covered the WNBA or watched that are frustrated by all the stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. It's like, I've been here for the Guardians since I moved to Cleveland in 2011, and all these casual fans are like, they're geniuses now about the team. And so, knuckleheads like me get frustrated by that situation. But really, it's a good thing. You're right, 100% right. It is great that so many people care right now. I was just saying today to Zach Meisel when we were doing the Guardian show, or before we started the Guardian show, I said, we have talked so much baseball and so much Guardians on the main show. I feel like in Cleveland, because the 2 radio stations that talk sports generally don't talk much baseball, and when they do, not in an educated way. I feel like we are the market for baseball. Obviously, we're already the market for the Browns, but I feel like we do a better job covering the Guardians than any other entity in town. And I was excited about that, how much we've talked about the Guardians. But a big part of the reason is because they've been so good and there has been interest. If we're being totally honest, the first year of this show, when we would talk about the Guardians, the numbers would go away. People would stop.
They'd be like,
watching.
I gotta go.
And that's not happening
But
anymore.
if we're being even more honest, this panel that's currently constructed today was the Guardians post-game show panel 2 years ago when they made the playoffs.
That's right.
I can look at myself and see how much more educated I've become about the Guardians, the sport overall, how much more vested I am in the team from then until now. And so you're absolutely right. The interest is there, and that's the one thing about this city that I always love. You give us a quality product to root for, we're going to show up and show out. Now, when it comes to the Browns, we don't give a damn what the Browns do. We're going to show up and show out regardless. That's just what it is. Even if they 0-16, we pulling up. So
now you said about the 500. For me, it's a little...
It's actually worse than that. They've lost 9 of 15 here.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of people that are like, these guys, there are certain people that are underachieving. We talked about them hitting the ball, but we've seen the Freemans fall off a little bit.
Yeah, Fry.
Fry has come down to earth.
Yeah.
Jimenez has not hit the ball well this year pretty much at all. Like you look at it, it's that thing in the back of your head, like, okay, now is we seeing the real Guardians, or we just seeing, did they get off to a nice little start?
Yeah, that's fair, but funny thing is, the Orioles and Yankees, the 2 other best teams in the American League, they're also playing poorly. They've been playing poorly longer, especially the Yankees, and the Guardians still have the best record. Speaking of which, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk about that. And it's funny, Steve Becker just texted us, and I said, you're okay, Steve, just wait till the next topic. We're going to get to exactly what you texted us about. But a quick reminder, 12:30, we head over from YouTube to WKYC. And on Monday, one more reminder, we're on 10 to 12, not 11 to 1, because we're at the Celebrity Austin Carr Golf Tournament. So make sure you guys set your alarm clocks an hour earlier for Monday's show. And with that, Bull, the Guardians' lead in the AL Central has been cut to just 4.5. The Twins are one of the hottest teams in baseball, and as you just alluded to, the Guardians have lost 9 of their last 15 games. So the question I have for you, with roughly 70 games to go, Should the Guardians still be considered the hands-on favorites to win the AL Central?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know obviously the lead's been cut down. This is going to happen over a season. No team plays great the entire year. The Guardians are not playing their best baseball right now. Minnesota's played better. But, somebody said to me, well, in another week they could be, tied for first. They could be. They could also be back up by 8-9 games in another week. Or, well, not another week because it's the All-Star break, but you get what I'm saying, 2 weeks. So, 4.5 game lead, 5 in the loss column is, yes, it's disappointing because 2 weeks ago they had a 9-game lead in the division, and now it's been cut down because Minnesota's played real well and Kansas City has gotten back on track. But they had slumped earlier. There's a lot of ebbs and flows to the season. Would you rather be, as poorly as the Guardians have played for the last 2 weeks, I'd still rather be 4.5 games up than 4.5 games back. So, yes, they should be the favorites still.
Yeah, they still got the lead, still got the cushion. I'd rather be playing with a 4.5 game lead than just, being even right now. And if you would have said before the season, hey, the Guardians will be up at the All-Star break 4.5 games, we'd be like, what?
You would sign for that easy.
Man, shut your mouth, bro.
Yeah.
I'll take that. How did that happen?
Yeah.
So, for me, there's going to be long stretches of the season where you just can't put it together. Like I always say, look, if you win 100 games, that means you lost 60 times.
Yeah, that's right.
So, it's just one of those things where, now I will say this, the Guardians I don't think will run away with it.
No, I don't think so either.
I think, it'll stay between 5, and you might even see the Royals jump back up in there a little more, a little bit, if the Twins fall off a little bit. But I think that it's going to be a close race all summer.
So for me, I think at the beginning of the year, we kind of talked about this being a close race all summer long. And then what the Cleveland Guardians did was they got out to this amazing start of the season, and then we kind of, moved the needle a little bit, assuming that the Guardians will have this division wrapped up at earliest probably mid to late August. But you know what, Bull G, I actually like it like this, right? I think the fact that, the Twins and the Royals have played much better over the last couple of weeks, it's good that the Guardians know that they're not going to just run away with the AL Central. That means they keep you locked in, they keep you focused, and they keep you on your heels. And when you got a young team like this, I think that's good energy and that's good repetition as you get towards the end of the season to prepare for the playoffs, especially if you look at how they played over the last 15 games or so, right? It seems like they're probably mentally exhausted, probably physically exhausted. They've looked at the calendar. Human nature kicks in. They know the All-Star game is coming.
Yeah.
And so when you got a team that's on your heels like that, like the Twins at 4.5 out, it just keep you sharp. It keep you focused and things like that. So I think the Guardians has found themselves in an arms race throughout the rest of the season, but I'm okay with that. I'm looking forward to it.
And it's crazy what you said about that. If you look at home field advantage, even if you say, I want the Guardians to win the division, have the best record, and have home field advantage. In baseball, home field advantage counts the least out of all the other sports.
That's true.
Like in basketball and football, that's major. You got home court advantage. In baseball, we've seen teams go on the road and win games. We've seen teams go on the road that are underdogs and win games in closing games and on the road. So for me, it's just about getting there and playing your best baseball and having health and having that momentum getting into the playoffs. I'd rather them end the year with momentum and have their rotation ready to go and lathered up rather than doing it right now.
Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said that you look at last year, and a lot of times in recent years, but last year in particular, the Rangers and Diamondbacks were fighting to make the playoffs at the end of the season, and it carried into the playoffs, and they both got to the World Series. There's something to be said for, we've seen it in recent years, that teams that have been way ahead have kind of gone stale once the playoffs, because you have nothing to play for the last few weeks.
The Dodgers.
Now, I'm not going to lie, I'd rather the Guardians have a 9-game lead right now than 4.5, yeah, but there are some positives to being in the mix in competition. If even if nothing else, even if you are battling for that top spot, you're right. It's not that big a deal in baseball to be the number one seed, to have the home field, but you'd rather have it than not.
Right.
Especially in in a game 5 in the first round or a game 7 in the ALCS, you'd rather that game be at home. Getting last licks is meaningful more than even the stadium. But especially if you're going to play the Yankees, like you want to be at home against the Yankees.
Oh, for sure.
You
wanna be
playing
in New
the
York.
Orioles, the Twins, it doesn't make as much of a difference. But there's something about playing at Yankee Stadium. You'd rather
You just feel like you can't get. You just feel like they're gonna hit a home run, like
right
every time. Like bums hit home runs for the Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, especially it's tricky at their stadium.
You don't need the lights being too bright for none of our pitchers, man.
Yeah.
You don't
So,
need that.
listen, yes, the Twins are a threat. We knew they would play better. The Royals are back on track after they had slumped for a while. Now it's the Indian stretch. Now we'll see. Hopefully they get a good series here against Tampa. You got Gavin Williams pitching this weekend. What do they got? Carrasco, Lively, and Gavin Williams this weekend, right?
I'll double check, but I believe that is
I think that's the
correct.
three guys this weekend. We'll see.
And you said something. You said they got the number one pick. Now, maybe I'm just getting greasy here. Maybe I'm just being greedy, project stockpile and baseball version. Now, look, if I get one of these young hitters, if I got Condon, and I'm looking around and I'm like, all right, it's September.
Yeah.
What if I ain't got no sticks?
Yeah.
What if we ain't get nobody? I'm like, he can't pinch run hit for somebody in right field?
It's unlikely that they would do that for a variety of reasons. One, the guy might not be ready.
He might not. He's not gonna melt though.
But
if he strikes out 6 times,
no. But if they it's always the thing with the clock. They don't want to get the clock started too early before he's really ready to play. I would say. If I draft either of those guys, I would start them in Double-A. I'm skipping A-ball. I don't know what they're going to do. I'd skip A-ball, put them right in Double-A, right at Akron.
Tomorrow.
Next week or whatever, And I would see, and if he plays great, I'd put him in Columbus. And if he plays great, yes, I would consider calling him up. I doubt they'll do it, but I would.
And that's how many months? Look, if you talk about September.
Yeah. We got 6 weeks.
That's 6 weeks.
6-7 weeks.
That's some data.
Yeah.
I would be kind of scared if it was a pitcher because I'm like, I don't want you overthrowing. I don't want you mess.
No.
But if it's just a regular hitter, like, hey,
I mean, Condon's been playing in the SEC. He hit 1 million home
he
runs.
got 70 home runs. I'm like, dang, how long you been playing?
Can he play right field in the big leagues? I don't know that he's capable of doing that yet. It might. I wouldn't count on it. I think it's very unlikely. But if he goes to Akron and Columbus, and I don't even know that they're going to start him in Akron. I'm saying I would start him in Akron. I don't know that they're going to do that. Go ahead, Mike.
Gee, you asked who he's playing? The SEC is the highest level of college baseball possible. Now, granted, they use metal bats.
Yeah.
And metal bats, you don't have to hit it perfectly to hit a home run.
Right.
But those fields are legit. They're not baby ballparks.
Yeah.
37 home runs in the power Condon showed this season and last season at Georgia are historical levels of power. That's not how he ran into a couple. Like, that is legitimate, unprecedented
And how many
levels
games
of
are
power.
they playing? How many games are they playing?
Depends on how far
60,
they
right?
went,
60,
but about
70?
60.
He played 60 and he got 37 home runs?
Bro, his slugging
This
percentage
year,
is over
his
1,000.
stats.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now exactly. Georgia played exactly 60 games,
Yeah.
which means Condon played in, when this loads, he played in 57 games. So
Okay.
he hit 37 homers. in
Come
57.
on.
That's a pretty high percentage.
I had to take the spectacles off. What are you talking about? We can't play him. You should have never told me that. This dude,
He about to go Imani Bates on him.
Yeah, that's right.
This
He
is
going
the
Imani.
new Imani Bates.
Imani
Talking
Condon.
about Imani Condon is
Well, yesterday,
legit.
we talked
Yeah.
about Condon, and we had the typo on the graphic. His OPS, we
Right.
had like 1 point. That was his slugging percentage.
Oh, his slugging
Turns
percentage
out his
is south.
slugging percentage was down. His OPS last season, was he ready for this?
Yeah.
1.565.
Yeah, I'm sitting upstairs and I'm correcting my error from yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I said, oh, my bad. I was looking at his slugging percentage. Mike goes, wait, that's his slugging percentage? I said, yeah.
His slugging percentage of 1,000 is absurd.
And then we'll move on to talk Browns in a sec.
Yeah.
But, and we're going to, in the TV show, we're going to make our picks. If we were the Guardians with the 1-1, who would we select? Come on. I feel like I know which way G's leaning. But last season at Georgia, his second season with the Bulldogs, in those games, he had 100 hits. 37 were home runs. 20 were doubles, and he hit 1 triple. So in 60 games, he had 58 extra base hits.
So he had 37 home runs 2 years in a row?
He had 25 home runs his first season playing.
Yeah.
He had 37 this year.
At the hell with Akron. He
So
went
Out of
straight to
100
Columbus.
hits, he had 59 extra
And
base
so he's
hits.
had 60 home runs in about 120 games.
62 home runs in 116 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, we going straight to Columbus. We going straight to
Hey,
Columbus.
listen, I'm going straight to an imaginary. He's going right to Toledo. he going to Dayton, wherever.
There has been a guy, there's been, who was it? There was a pitcher for the Reds in the 70s, I want to say, who went straight to the big leagues, maybe from high school.
Well, Paul Skeens was just named the NL starter in the All-Star game.
Oh, that's not right. He shouldn't be the starter.
I'm just telling you, it's
Yeah,
official.
but
He throws 109.
yeah,
or
he didn't
something.
pitch enough innings. I don't think he earned that. But whatever. He's great. But he's a once in a decade prospect. Bryce Harper, Strasburg. These guys aren't that level of prospect, but they're high level.
I ain't heard nobody hit that many home runs
yeah,
in college.
that's true.
Wait,
Here,
listen.
let me look
Yeah.
up the all-time single-season record. Hold on one sec.
Man, this dude.
I thought he got it.
This dude is getting. Yeah, he's up here. Sorry.
I thought Condon had the record.
Stephen Vogt, stop playing around.
That's not his call.
And you look, they listen. The front office will be locking him up, right?
It is not the record. You ready for this?
Yeah. What's the record?
So, Pete Incaviglia
Oh my
And
God,
Pete
Mike.
Incaviglia?
in night.
It's not Incaviglia.
I don't know. I never
Big
heard
Pete,
that name.
man. The guy had a chest.
Yeah.
He looked like a professional bodybuilder. Pete
Never heard of
Incaviglia.
him.
Yeah, good.
In
Oh, yeah.
1985, he played 75 games that season.
Yeah.
Hit 48 home runs.
Yeah. Nah, he was a good major leaguer,
Yeah, he
but
was.
not great.
He was.
He wasn't
Second.
a great. He had a lot of power.
Second, Jeff Ledbetter.
I don't think he ever
Florida
played the
State,
majors.
1982, hit 42 home runs in 74 games.
I could be wrong. I don't think if he played in the majors, he did not play long because I don't remember. the
Condon
names.
is tied for fifth. I'll give you the other two guys ahead
All
of
right,
him.
go ahead.
Lance Berkman, who you've heard of,
Was a
at
great player.
Rice, hit 41 in 63 games. That's
Yeah.
the Ferris comp. And then Brandon Larson of LSU in 97 hit 40 in 69.
Never heard of him. I don't know if he played. I don't think he played in the big leagues.
These
either.
dudes is hitting 2 home
So
runs a
Condon's
game.
tied for fifth,
Yeah.
and then Jack Caglione, the other guy
Yeah.
who's in consideration, with his 35 this year,
Yeah.
tied for eighth all time.
Okay. By the way, I think it was Joe Nuxhall, if you want to look that up, who went straight from either high school or college.
Spell Nuxhall for me.
Joe Nuxhall of the Reds. Nuxhall. I believe he's the one.
Don't search that
Did
at work.
Mark Fidrich of the Tigers go
Don't
straight
search
to the
that-
majors?
Don't search that at work.
There was somebody else. Well, Joe Charbonneau didn't play in the minors very long. I don't
Not
think.
on the company Wi-Fi.
No,
Not on
no.
the company Wi-Fi.
Are you sure you when you get hit with that firewall? Are
Joe
you sure?
Nuxhall,
Yeah, did Joe Nuxhall play in the minors?
I know, but he was drafted in the 1944 draft.
They had a shut up, Earl.
Definitely
He
don't,
retired in 1966.
definitely
so
don't search pictures.
either your time's way off
images.
or you're thinking of the wrong person.
Nah.
But he did pitch for the Reds.
Yeah, did he pitch in the minors?
They're talking about his World War II stints.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why can't we get?
All right, it doesn't matter.
Why can't we get?
He's the youngest player to ever make a debut, though, and 16 years old. So maybe you are right.
Yeah.
Why
16.
can't we get Caglione too?
He's going to be a top 5 pick.
I know there's concern about him, and the guy mentioned it yesterday, that he swings and misses a lot. I worry about that with college. hitters.
Well, listen. If he's gonna retire, can't we just tell him don't sign? We got this bag.
Well, other teams can offer a bag, too.
Oh, yeah. They
So, the Guardians used, let's just say, $10 million on the first pick. Mm-hmm. The second team in the draft has the next most amount of money.
Oh, so they got $9 million.
Yeah.
Essentially. So the Guardians, let's say they take a guy who takes a quote-unquote haircut for $1 million less. They could use that $1 million for a guy in the middle of the first round who may be getting 5. Like, hey, we'll give you 6. I don't think you're going to get a guy to drop from 2 to 36 for the Guardians to use the extra
All
money.
right, go
So
ahead.
I was right about Nuxhall, except I was wrong about the timeline. The guy in the 70s, as Steve pointed out, was a guy named David Clyde, who went
call.
straight from high school to the majors. But his career flamed out. I think he barely pitched.
All right, let's
Nuxhall
talk a
was
little
a great
Browns,
pitcher.
guys. A
Yes,
quick
let's do
word from
this.
FanDuel, though, to bring us into it. You know I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to anymore. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. That's right. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
When you say you don't want sports to stop, it reminds me of that dark time of COVID when there were no sports for like 2 months.
Oh man.
And I was watching Korean League baseball.
You want to watch a NASCAR with me?
I was not watching that.
And it was wild because like Australia and like New Zealand was open.
Yeah.
And so they was playing all kind of soccer matches, and they're like, "This is what you could do in America if you guys wear masks."
Yeah. And then we were doing a 5-hour radio show with no commercial breaks and nothing to talk about. Go ahead,
Crazy.
Mike.
I'm actually going to let Earl set this topic
All
up
right, Earl,
because
set it
this
up.
is a spin-off of what he and G did yesterday on the Ultimate 216 show, and I thought it'd be a good conversation for all of us to have here.
Go ahead, Earl.
you wanna
Hey,
set
first
it
of
up?
all, if you didn't see the Ultimate 216 show yesterday with me, G. Bush, and Quincy Carrier, go back after this show and check that out. So we talked about wins versus stats, and this came along because social media was, kind of going back and forth about Deshaun Watson putting up crazy numbers versus the Browns winning. For me, I think we all feel differently, but this is just me. And Bull, I've had this stance the entire time that Deshaun Watson has been here. I never really say you can go back and check the tape, but you can go back and check the tape here and at 92.3 The Fan. I have not changed my stance. Deshaun Watson will always be measured for me in wins and losses, not in stats. I don't think Deshaun Watson has to be the reason more often than not that the Cleveland Browns win games. There will be some games to where he's going to have to put that cape on and go out there and get a dub. But as long as Deshaun Watson is not losing games, I'm cool. As long as you're not turning the football over, as long as you can come through in the clutch with a big play in a big time moment, I'm cool. I don't give a damn about stats. I don't care about none of that. Can you help lead the Cleveland Browns to a Super Bowl? And this is why I feel this way. There's a lot of great individual players throughout the NFL, and no matter how good they are, they don't end the season with a Super Bowl ring. Why? Because their contribution alone wasn't good enough to get the job done. You need all 11 parts on the same side of the football moving in the same direction to get accomplished what you're trying to get accomplished.
All right. The idea to me that Deshaun Watson could be mediocre and that's okay is insanity. We traded for Deshaun Watson to be great. The Browns didn't give up what they gave up for him to be mediocre. They didn't pay him what they paid him to be mediocre. If we wanted mediocre, we already had it. Baker Mayfield's mediocre. He's an average NFL quarterback. It's not okay for Deshaun Watson to be mediocre. The Browns can't win a Super. You could say it's about wins. First of all, I don't want to hear about his win-loss record to this point. First, a win-loss record is not just the quarterback, it's the whole team. All right? Especially Deshaun Watson's win-loss record in Cleveland. It's disingenuous. It's very disingenuous to make an argument that Deshaun Watson's been fine in Cleveland based on the win-loss record. Because I did not do that for Baker Mayfield. And it sounds, when you do that, you sound like the Baker Mayfield apologists. So I'm not going to hear that. You could make whatever argument you want. You could look through a tiny lens and find a stat or two that defends Deshaun Watson. The bottom line is he's been a major disappointment in his 2 years here. There's no other way about it. In my opinion, they have not won a single game in 2 years because of him. Now, I know people are going to argue the Ravens' second half. You could argue that one. There's an argument there. I don't believe they won that game because of him. I think it's been overstated how great he played. Now, I give him a lot of credit for playing as well as he did with an arm injury, but I think we've gone over the top on how great that second half was because he threw for like 100 yards. I know he completed all his passes. They were all short passes. I'm not killing him. He played fine, played well in that second half, but let's not go over the top. Outside of that one game, maybe, you can't argue another game he's played here in 2 years that they've won because of him. You can win because of a quarterback, you can win with a quarterback, or you can win in spite of a quarterback. And most of the games they've won with him have been either with him or in spite of him. Mostly with him, where he's been okay, and they've played well, and that's it. We could, like I said, the Browns, the reason we were all excited, the reason I went bananas on the radio when they traded for Deshaun Watson is because I thought they traded for a superstar. And you win in the NFL with superstars. You don't win. It's easy to just say, well, if they win, that's all that matters. Fine. They're not winning a Super Bowl if Deshaun Watson's not special. You could con yourself into believing they could, but it's not happening. Not in this AFC, not with Patrick Mahomes, not with this division. If Deshaun Watson is Baker Mayfield, then what the hell did you give up all you gave up for him? So if Deshaun Watson is not a star, then the trade was a bad trade. It's that simple. I mean, I don't know whether you want to say if they win a Super Bowl, okay. But if Deshaun Watson's not a star, they're not going to win a Super Bowl.
This is very odd.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sitting on here in two opposing conversations, and I see where people are coming from on both angles. But if you say who do you align most with, I got to go with Abner Bull on this one. You know why, Earl? I got to go with Abner Bull. Now, I always say, I agree with you. Winning is what matters.
Yes,
But-
ultimately.
Ultimately. But where we at and what type of time we on, you ain't gonna be getting much wins if you ain't putting up them numbers.
No.
Like, let's be clear. Like, you're in a division with some of the best quarterbacks to ever put shoes on, and you're not gonna have a lot of 200 wins, 200-yard games where you got wins. 225, one. That's not gonna work. For me, I look at it in terms of this. I say, look, I can't move the post. Baker Mayfield won some games. And he went into Pittsburgh and won some games. And people held that on the pedestal like that was the shining times of our lives.
Yeah.
And you know what? For some people it was, because we did go into Pittsburgh. We did win a lot of games that year. But they decided that Baker Mayfield, being who Baker Mayfield was not consistent enough or good enough to beat the top-notch teams. So they made a deal for Deshaun Watson. So you got Deshaun Watson. I've been clear on it too. I need 4,000 plus. I didn't switch up. Don't you get fooled. You need 4,000 just on alone what Flacco did. You need 4 racks just because of that. And at the end of the day, when we start to look at the whole totality of quarterback play, yes, we look at quarterback play and we say it's the most important position. If it's the most important position, let me ask you a question, Dan. Why all of a sudden do we got different standards for Myles Garrett? What we say to Myles Garrett, he won the Defensive Player of the Year. That means he's the best defender in the game. And we still say what?
Could be better.
You got to give me more.
Yeah.
You got to do something when the game is on the line.
That's right.
You got to get strip sacks, and you got to get tackles for loss, and you got to have more sacks in the cold weather or on the road, and when it counts the most in playoff atmosphere. We say Nick Chubb, he done tore up his whole knee. I expect Nick Chubb to be back week 1 and be Nick Chubb.
Yeah, right.
He's Nick Chubb, right? I expect him to do that. But why? You can't get to Deshaun Watson and say all that matters is winning. That's not truthful. Winning counts.
Okay.
But them damn stats count too. I need both, the best of both worlds. Because to win, you need those numbers.
All right, so I'm not moving the goalpost. This has been my stance since we traded for him. I hear you, Bull, and your opinion is the opinion that most fans have. But I can look at Deshaun Watson himself and see him have a season where he put up hella stats and it didn't produce wins. You could go back over the last couple of years of football. I instantly think about Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, 2 quarterbacks who year in and year out, they stuff the stat sheet. But when it matters most, they don't win those big games. And if you ask fans from those fan bases, at the end of the day, they don't give a damn about those stats because those teams didn't accomplish the overall goal. I'm not saying, and I never used the word mediocre.
Yeah.
I never said that Deshaun Watson could be mediocre and the Browns be successful. What I'm saying is Deshaun Watson don't have to put up top 5 numbers in the entire NFL for the Browns to have success. Don't
Yes,
lose.
he does.
For me, don't lose me the game. The stat that I look at the most, turnovers. Don't be top 5 in the NFL in turnovers, because if you're turning the ball over, 9 times out of 10, we're not winning those games. There's going to be games throughout the season to where he's going to be in a shootout, to where the Browns is going to be down 4 points within a minute to go, and the field goal ain't going to cut it. We're going to need Deshaun Watson to be clutch in clutch moments. And as long as he's come through in those moments and those clutch moments with big plays and help us win and not turn the football over, then to me, that's what matters. And at the end of the day, before you go, I think to most fans who even agree with you, if we get to January and the Browns got an opportunity to win the Super Bowl, nobody's going to care how we got there as long as we get there.
But you're not going to get to the Super Bowl unless he plays like a star. So I think your argument is, I get what you're saying in theory, but it doesn't make any sense because the Browns are not going. You said, the Cowboys fans are not happy with Dak Prescott, or Bills fans are not happy with Josh Allen. Wouldn't we take Dak Prescott or Josh Allen over Deshaun Watson right now?
Me and you had that conversation. I told you I wouldn't take that.
That's crazy.
We had that conversation like 3 weeks ago.
There's no argument.
For the simple fact that, not to cut you off, but for the simple fact, if you took Dak Prescott, in my opinion, and put him on this current Browns team, Dak Prescott issues are still the same. He still crumbles in big moments. He still doesn't show it when his team needs
How
him
many
the most.
playoff wins does Deshaun Watson have?
Not as many. Not that many. Neither does Dak Prescott. But we can say that about a lot of different quarterbacks.
But Earl,
and
you can't say. Wait a second.
And then to something else you said. Wait a second.
You can't say that Dak Prescott crumbles in the big moments, which I don't even believe that that's really true. I don't think they lost in the playoffs because of him. He's had some bad games.
His playoff stats, he's got 14 touchdowns, 7 picks.
Yeah, how's that crumbling in the big moments?
I've seen Dak Prescott play with my own 2 eyes. And that's what I mean about stats. To me, stats don't always tell a full story. I think football played out game to game, moment to moment. It can be different.
Has Deshaun Watson played well in Cleveland?
Deshaun Watson has played well enough to win.
Come on, stop it, Earl.
He's played well enough to win.
Stop it, Earl.
You don't think the win?
Who won more? The Cowboys won. You're killing Dak Prescott. They won.
Well, I'm not arguing your point.
Yeah.
You see it how you see it. I'm not saying you're wrong.
You have changed the goalposts.
But I haven't.
How can I made these same arguments for Baker? It's silly.
You don't know that. Did you ask me that when Baker was here?
It's silly.
Did you ask me that when Baker was here? Did you ask me that when Baker was here?
I don't even remember. It doesn't matter.
If I would have made the same argument. This has been my stance since he's been here. So how am I changing the goalposts?
It's ridiculous.
For me,
to say
it's about winning.
Well.
Because I've seen Deshaun Watson put up big numbers.
They haven't won because of him.
And he's put up big numbers and his team didn't do a damn thing.
That's 1 year. What are you talking about?
Here's the thing that I believe that you could do 2 things at one time. Just because Deshaun Watson put up big numbers and his team didn't perform well did not mean that that you either have a bunch of stats and your team sucks. No, well, that means if his stats are great, you go back and look at what the other pieces and parts were doing.
Right.
Did your offensive line work? Did you have a running game? What was your defense like? You can't put it all on Deshaun Watson and say he threw for 4,800
Wins
yards.
and losses is not a quarterback stat. It's a team stat.
But just like everybody's saying that he has to have the stats, those same people.
Because the stats are going to translate to wins.
But it doesn't always happen that way, Bull, is what I'm saying.
Earl, he didn't have a good team there. Of course it doesn't. More often than not, good stats lead to wins more than bad stats. Is that fair?
Yeah,
of course. So what are you talking about?
But I'm not. But you're saying that he has to have top 5 quarterback numbers, and I
didn't necessarily say top 5.
But when I said that, you said yes, he does.
Well, he's got to be top 10. Doesn't necessarily have to be 5. It could be 6.
Don't turn the football over and come through in the clutch. I'm not saying Deshaun Watson could be a bottom 10 quarterback and the Browns have success. What I'm saying is he don't have to be a top 5 quarterback and the Browns can still have success.
We don't have to dicker about whether it's 5 or 7. He's got to be. He's got to be a great quarterback for them to win.
Here's what I'm saying. For me, if you look at the quarterbacks he's playing against, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, 2 or 3 for 5,000 yards. Like when you're getting Stroud, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
These are the guys that are in your division.
Yeah.
In order to beat those guys, you are going to have to not turn the ball over.
Yeah,
I need you to make me a play. I need a play. Like in some days, you're gonna look at Patrick Mahomes and he ain't gonna miss at all. The whole game, he's not missing. 3rd down, he making plays. I need you to do the same exact thing.
And what's that called, G? That's not coming through in the clutch.
Listen, I need him to come through in the clutch and in the first quarter and in the second quarter
Earl,
and in the third quarter.
You're dreaming up a scenario.
I need all that.
No, wait a second. You're dreaming up this weird scenario where
weird.
he throws. It is weird because give me an example of a quarterback who's done that in recent years. That is a decent quarterback. Only plays great in big moments, doesn't turn the ball over in big moments, and the team wins at a high level. There's no way. Give me an example. Can you name one example?
I think you try to twist my words. You're trying to twist my words. I never said only play great in big moments. What I'm saying is you're not listening. This is what I need from Deshaun Watson. Don't turn the football over. Don't be the reason we lose games. And come through in the clutch moments when we need you to be the reason we win.
Earl.
You're making it seem like that every single game Deshaun has to be the reason we win.
I'm not saying that.
But that's how you're making it seem.
He has
you're
to be
coming
the
off
reason
that way.
they win a lot. Because he's the quarterback and it's the most important position. And you're playing in an AFC where the Chiefs win a lot because of Mahomes, where the Bengals win a lot because of Burrow, where the Ravens win a lot because of Lamar Jackson. Those guys are not along for the ride. Let me ask you a question.
You watch a lot of football, right?
Yes.
Last regular season, not postseason, regular season. In your opinion, did the Chiefs win a lot because of Mahomes?
Yes.
Mahomes had a statistically worst year of the season last year. He threw 14 interceptions. If you watch a lot of those games, the defense was the catalyst that picked him up more often than not. When they got to the playoffs, Mahomes was Mahomes.
Ultimately,
he threw 6 touchdowns and 1 interception,
the defense
and he
doesn't-
led them to the Super Bowl.
Let me tell you something. How many games did the Chiefs win last year? 10? 11? You can talk about the defense all you want. If they had some slappy playing quarterback instead of Patrick Mahomes, they would have won 5 games last year. I don't care about the defense.
They won 11.
All right? The Browns are not winning the Super Bowl because of Myles Garrett. If they're going to win the Super Bowl, it's going to be because of Deshaun Watson, and that's it. So if Deshaun Watson's the 17th best quarterback in the league, you can kiss the Super Bowl goodbye. And if the Browns were, and I'll tell you, you know who else is not comfortable with your scenario? Deshaun Watson and the Browns. Because when the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, they didn't say, well, we don't care about the stats, just win.
I disagree with that.
We'll win with you.
You know why I disagree with that? I just literally watched the podcast. G, we used some of those clips yesterday where his quarterback coach talked to him about, he said, Deshaun, I want to see you be great as an individual. And Deshaun said, yeah, that's cool and all, but I'm trying to win, even if the stats don't match that. So for you to say that Deshaun Watson would be comfortable with that, he didn't say that himself.
And he's what's known in technical terms as full of shit. He doesn't even believe that. There's no way he believes that. Come on.
You know what I would tell him? I'm going to be honest with you. I done been in them huddles. I done sat there, and there's times where I'd had somebody behind me that I didn't believe was going to make no plays. And I'm like, yeah, we're screwed. But there is times when we had somebody behind me that we're blocking for, and you're like, oh, yeah, he got that magic. We're going to get it done. And if I was his teammate, when they get in that huddle, I'm not telling him to be regular. I'm telling him to be that dude. Because that's what we need.
He was that dude in Houston.
That's what
when
we
the
need.
Browns traded for him, we all thought they got the second best quarterback in the league, or at the very least, a top 5 quarterback in the league. Now, you want to tell me he's the 7th best quarterback? I don't give a crap if he's 3rd or 7th. That's irrelevant. But the Browns traded. You didn't give up what you gave up to be just okay in the big moments. You gave up what you gave up, and you paid him the biggest contract in the history of football at the time because you thought he'd be great. Because you thought he'd be great, you thought he'd be great, and I thought he'd be great. And there was no doubt in any of us minds. And now we're all saying, well, not we're all. Some of us, Earl, saying, well, he doesn't have to be great. He's just got to be not turn the ball. That's why you traded for him to not turn the ball over.
I think you think
I can get 20. I can get Tyrod Taylor to not turn the ball over.
I just think you think I'm moving the goalposts, and from literally the time that this trade has been made, I've said the same thing. You brought up Baker Mayfield. When Baker Mayfield was the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, my attitude was the same. As long as Baker don't go out there and lose us the game, if Baker plays well enough and we come out victorious on Sunday, that's good enough for me.
But it's not good enough. That's Earl. You can't win a Super Bowl that way.
Bull, I'm telling you what's good enough for me.
All right, then you're okay with him not winning a Super Bowl.
You can't change my mind. If the Browns won a lot of games and ended up winning the Super Bowl, I don't give a damn how it happened.
Of course.
We won the Super Bowl.
But Earl, you're being unrealistic. They're not going to win.
No, I'm telling you my honest opinion.
But Earl,
I don't care how it happens, boy.
Nobody cares.
You could jump up and down and try to tell me he got to throw for 50,000 yards, whatever. I don't care. Win the Super Bowl.
Of course, who would disagree with that if they win the Super Bowl?
And that's that's the bottom line I'm making you.
The bottom line is they can't win the Super Bowl unless he plays at a high level, and you know that. So your argument is pointless.
My argument is not pointless because I'm not. You're trying to make it seem like I'm saying that Deshaun Watson don't have to come through and don't have to perform. I never said that.
So what is your point?
My point is Deshaun Watson can't be the reason we lose. Deshaun Watson needs to come.
No, he's got to be the reason they win.
He has to be the reason. I did say that. Boy, you're making it seem like I never said nothing that you're saying right now.
You just want to not turn the ball over.
Hey, Deshaun, I'm going to get real specific with you. Listen, you can have 2 things at once. I need 4,500 and I need these wins. I need about 30-plus touchdowns, and I don't need all the interceptions, dog. I need them numbers because here's the thing. Chances are if you give me 300 a game, I know the defense ain't going to give up all these yards. I know they ain't going to do that, right, because they got a good defense. And if you get 4,500, that means Jerry Jeudy was balling. That means Amari Cooper was balling. That means Elijah Moore was even doing his thing. I ain't said you got to throw for 5. Matter of fact, I'll take 4. Give me 4, 30-plus, and 12 touchdowns. I'll roll with that, maybe 300 on the ground, and I like the numbers,
The better his numbers are, the more they're going to win. That's the bottom line.
I like
if
the
he
numbers.
puts up mediocre numbers, they're going to be a mediocre team. They might be a little better than mediocre in the regular season. They're not winning the Super Bowl. They didn't trade for a mediocre quarterback.
In your opinion, what's
Baker
mediocre?
Mayfield is a mediocre quarterback. And by the way, with Baker, if they would have had Baker Mayfield the last 2 years play the same exact games that Deshaun Watson would, they probably would have the same record, maybe better. I think it would be hard to argue anything else, and everybody knows that I'm not a Baker Mayfield.
And by the way, Baker Mayfield threw for 4 last year.
Yeah.
28 touchdowns, 94.6 rating.
I just think it's completely disingenuous to argue that Deshaun Watson's played well.
If Baker give me 4,
For 2
you
points.
can give me 4.
Yeah, let's go. That's not a high bar, 4,000 yards.
Give me the 4.
Go ahead.
Bush, if
Good
Evan
argument.
Mobley can score 15 points in the regular season, what can Emoni Bates average?
Oh!
And that's what we're going to talk about in 1 sec after a quick reminder that eBay Motors is an official sponsor of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home some big-time wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers. The Cavs start their G League championship defense tonight. 4 o'clock tip-off against the Orlando Magic. Emoni Bates is back with the desire to dominate Las Vegas, entering his second
Didn't he win
season.
the MVP?
G.
No, he didn't.
Oh, that was another Cavs guy,
I think
right?
No one on the Cavs won MVP last season.
I think Mobley won the player of the game in the championship game, right?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. But entering his second season in the league, entering his second summer league, what are your expectations for Emoni Bates as he gets ready to take on the Vegas Summer League for the second time in his career?
Man, first of all, you go check his interview. I think he's done a lot of he's buttoned up when it comes to certain things, man. When he talk about what he wanted to do, he said he wanted to, learn how to play in the flow of the offense, be more efficient. I love the words efficient. I love the buzzwords, right? There's a lot of things that people will use against you to kind of say you're not ready to play the game. First thing that he talked about was learning the defensive rotations, learning to be more efficient on the court. He said he could feel, his weight, that he's, not being pushed off his spots. And he talked about just getting to his spots quicker. He had, he said he had a lot of wasted motion in setting up these things. If you watch his game, he does a lot of hesitation. He does some dribbling to set things up. In the league, when you're playing against NBA competition, you ain't got all that time to be setting it up. That shot clock is moving. You need to get you your spot raised up and knock that down. He talked about doing that. He talked about how he's now more physical because he did put 26 pounds on. And he's like, he still wants to come out there and be a scorer and be effective. But I think the main thing that I'm looking for is the defensive awareness, especially when you're help side. Are you paying attention to the assignments? Another thing, are you getting your shot in the flow of the offense? I want to see, he shoots a lot of threes. That's great. I want to see him add a little wrinkle when they close it out tough. I want to see you get to a spot, maybe pull up from mid-range. I want to see you get to the basket. Also want to see if you understand whether or not that you got a teammate like a DJ Burns or Jaylon Tyson that has a mismatch that you need to be seeing, that you need to dump down or get somebody else involved. That's another part of his game. But because I know the jumper is there, I know the pull-up game is there. And so it ain't about getting 35 points, because that's one of the things people use against him. He's just a scorer, just this. Listen, add some different things to your game, mature your game, become more efficient, and then they can't say nothing.
I got to tell you guys that I want Emoni Bates to become a really good player, because I am here for the G. Bush victory lap.
Oh, that lap is
That
crazy.
will be the greatest.
It's the greatest
victory lap ever.
in
Better than
history.
anything in the history of
In
the
the
show.
history of the game, it'll be,
will be you talking shit if he hits. So I want it to happen, because I think that would be the
what's going to
funniest
happen?
thing ever.
He's going to run out the studio, run around the entire WKYC building, come back and how he tell everybody how much he was right about it.
Oh man, I want that to happen.
Man, you know why I'm passionate about it, McNuggets? Because I believe there's different ways you can build a team. I watch the Denver Nuggets, and I watch Michael Porter, right? And I remember they take him out of Missouri. He had the back injury. As a matter of fact, he had the same back surgery as me. He didn't play very much. They still had Joker. They still had Murray. But when they got to where they was going and they was playing for championships, they got a guy that is this, 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", that's shooting jumpers, that's athletic, that put the Nuggets over the top, man. Like the Maxey deal, right? They able to get a guy like Maxey. They didn't expect much out of Maxey. Maxey turned into a max player.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? Like if you get a guy that's 6'9", that can shoot the ball, that you can develop, now you don't gotta touch the core four. Hey, if Darius Garland don't show up and only give you 15 points, that's fine. Right. You ain't looking for Darius to give you that. But I think they should be doing a better job of giving these dudes that opportunity, not just because it's Emoni Bates. It's because he got the skill set. If it was anybody else, I would say the same thing. But he's the wing you wanted. You got him for free. It's a second-round pick. It was free. Didn't cost you nothing.
Now you got to do is on the team.
Wasn't Draymond the second-round pick?
Draymond was a early second-round pick.
And wasn't
Jokic is a second-round pick.
Who?
Jokic.
He was a second-round pick?
Yep. He was drafted while the NBA broadcast was running a Taco Bell commercial.
Wow. Manu Ginobili, wasn't he a second-round pick?
I think I'll tell you right now.
You pick a Hall of Famer in the second round, your trajectory is different. Draymond is the straw.
We've all been kind of dismissive, besides G, and Earl's been a supporter of Emoni Bates too. I don't know shit about developing basketball players. So I don't know if Emoni Bates is going to be any good or not. But there are examples of second-round picks that become something. The guy was highly thought of out of high school. If you really believe that your new coach is and coaching staff, because both our new head coach and Johnny Bryant,
and Jordan Ott, and the other guy they brought in,
these guys have reputations as developing players. So let's see what they got. Teams like San Antonio, you talked about Denver. San Antonio, the reason they had such a long run is because they would develop guys. Tony Parker wasn't a high pick either, was he?
He was a late first rounder. Ginobili was the second. Kawhi Leonard was the 15th pick in the draft.
There you go.
Duncan obviously was 1-1, but everyone else was ancillary parts.
Miami, who obviously went to the finals last year, they've had a long history of developing guys out of nowhere. Who knows? I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon to some degree and say I'm not gonna laugh about the possibility. Now, Summer League doesn't prove anything.
Well, no,
I can't believe it.
Wait. Let me say this.
But I'm going to give him a shot with a new coaching staff.
Oh, shit. Wait a minute.
I mean this 100% seriously.
Yeah.
This is not the end-all, be-all, but Emoni Bates, and I said this on the show on Wednesday, is in the perfect position to go crazy in the Summer League. I'll tell you two reasons why. A, the guys who make the biggest jump in Summer League are typically guys entering their second season. They know what to expect. They've been through it before. They have a full year with an NBA conditioning and strength staff. He says he put on 26 pounds. I am fascinated to see how that impacts his game, G. One of his best assets was that lightning quick first step. Well, now he's 195. Is it still lightning quick, or does the added strength, does that counteract and give him a new arsenal of moves to dive into? And secondly, the knock on Emoni was, how does he fit into an offense? You don't run a ton of offense in Summer League. It is roll the ball out and hoop. And we've always said, Amani's a hooper. Can he be a basketball player? That's the question that had to be answered. And last season in stretches for the Summer League, we saw the hooper come out and go on 10-point stretches where on 6 possessions he hits 2 threes, misses one, gets a fast break layup or whatever. This is the perfect basketball situation for Emoni Bates to show that he's made improvements to his game as a scorer, as a facilitator, as a rebounder, and a defender with the openness of an NBA Summer League where they run a few sets, but it's really just let's see who can play and who can't.
But
perfect opportunity for Emoni to showcase.
But to that point, if he does play great, like if he plays badly, that's a negative. If he plays great, though, it doesn't prove he's going to be good in the NBA.
I didn't say it'll prove, but I'm saying it's the first tangible step you'd see in improvements to his game.
All right, yeah, that's
okay. You were in the G League. We know what you did last year.
Yeah,
you've had a whole year to work on, and it's not apples to apples competition, but it's Summer League to Summer League. He is in the prime position to take a massive jump from last summer when he helped win a championship for the Cavs, and I know you're going to smirk, but they did win a championship. They went undefeated out in Vegas, to seeing what he can do this year.
Who cares?
Big rings, boy.
There's no ring.
Big rings.
There shouldn't be.
They got rings.
Big ring money.
That's embarrassing.
Big ring money. To his point, though, like we see Emoni the hooper. I think, Mike, last year we seen Emoni the basketball player start to develop. We talk about Emoni being better with the ball in his hands and Emoni needing to learn how to play inside of an NBA set offense or style of play, etc. We seen Emoni take leaps and bounds, in my opinion, playing off ball. We seen Emoni focus on the defensive side of the ball. You heard him talk a couple days ago about, just being more aware defensively, communicating defensively, helping his teammates more defensively. And so I think like when you have a technician coaching your summer league team like Jordan Ott, it furthers help develop Emoni into playing into a system. The one thing that we do know, I think he's a damn good jump shooter. He has a very quick release. And if he can learn to actually be that guy that stands in the corner and be that 3-and-D wing, he can earn himself more playing time for the Cleveland Cavaliers this upcoming season.
McNuggets, I was watching some G League stuff, and like, I'm not gonna say this because I don't want to be blasphemous, but like, he might not have like, I'm not gonna say no Steph Curry stuff, but he got heart. He got heart like Steph Curry. What heart like Steph Curry is, I got the nerve to shoot this from half court, and it be going in sometimes.
I don't know if that's heart. I think it's more balls.
Yeah.
I'm watching the game. I'm like, he just pulled up from the logo.
He has no conscience, and that's a good thing to have as a scorer.
I'm also, by the way, looking forward to seeing Jaylon Tyson. He
Craig
looks
Porter
like.
Jr. and DJ Burns. And Luke Travers.
DJ Burns, I always root for the fat guys.
Hey, now,
I love a
now
fat
hold
guy
on.
sport.
Let me start this.
Yeah.
Listen, if I'm rooting for Emoni Bates, I'm rooting for DJ Burns.
Yeah.
First of all, he has my old body type.
Yeah. Look at that.
He has my old. Second of all,
Yeah.
I feel like I've been wanting some of these. I love Kenneth Lofton. I liked Glenn Big Baby Davis. I think when I was just sitting there watching his highlights, get ready for. Listen, he got the left hook. He got the step back. He got the dirt rock. He left-handed.
Love it,
listen,
Mike.
Hey, listen, I like it, man. Hey, look, we need to keep his diet under control. Hey, listen, hey, me and you, we can keep each other, accountable. I'll call you and you call me. Don't be eating them cakes.
We got super chats real quick.
Yeah.
Last quick one. Real
Yeah,
quick.
Somebody said in the chat our back and forth passionate rant was better than Undisputed and ESPN.
Damn right it was.
They ain't seen us argue cheeseburgers and hamburgers yet.
That's
Stay
true.
tuned.
That
Three
gets-
super chats
that
real
gets
quick.
serious also.
All related to the Deshaun conversation. Halim, said,
Yeah.
says the further away we get from last season, the less Bull gives credit. Go back and watch the games. He clearly doesn't remember the second half of the Ravens or Titans game. He is clutch and capable. Curtis Thomas says, scratch that ish. Earl said Deshaun needs to perform. And Charles T said, Bull never heard of Jimmy G and Stafford going to the Super Bowl? ? Let's not forget Brock Purdy either.
I ain't saying he don't need to
Brock
perform.
Purdy was fantastic last year. Mm-hmm. Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. What are they talking about?
Yeah, and I'm not saying he don't need to perform. I think me and Bull,
Jimmy G never went to the Super Bowl.
we just got a different view of how he should get there.
Yeah,
He lost to the Chiefs the
he
first
lost
time
to
they
the
played.
Chiefs.
Oh, that's right. And he was awful. And had they had a good quarterback.
If he didn't overthrow Emmanuel Sanders, they win that Super Bowl.
And by the way, you want to point to the anomaly? If Deshaun Watson plays like Jimmy G, they're not going to the Super Bowl.
Peace.
Not in this AFC. Don't
See
be
you on
silly.
WKYC in 3 minutes.